Hope Windle. Welcome, welcome. My name is Hope Windle from SUNY Coil Center, and I just wanted to give everybody a chance at our very beginning to do so in our SUNY Coil way, which is for everybody to unmic themselves and say hello in your mother tongue. So if everybody could unmute and at 1, 2, 3, we'll say bonjour.
Ni
Bonjour.
hao.
Hello.
Hello, namaste.
No.
All right, and we will start our slides. We're so thrilled that you're here today. So if you have wanted to find out about how experiential learning can happen in a worldwide effort and opportunity and impact, you're in the right place. And I just want to give our wonderful Ed Beck a chance to just recap of where we've been and tee it up for moving forward.
Hello, everyone, and thank you. It's been a real pleasure of mine co-chairing with Dr. Mara Huber this experiential learning task force from FACT2. FACT2 is the Faculty Advisory Council on Teaching and Technology, and every year we pick a couple things that we're going to focus on for the year. This year we took two separate task groups that we put together, one exploring AI and its impact across the entire curriculum, and the other one looking at an experiential learning. And we have had a rich history of experiential learning in SUNY with projects like COIL happening for a really long time. But we have this broad definition of experiential learning that includes building authentic tasks into existing courses, into our curriculum for students to do. That could be our traditional internship, or that could be a project that the student embarks on. And you're going to hear from kind of the COIL perspective, how they've integrated international learning into what they do in their courses. And that can do a lot of things. Maybe they are starting with the UN Sustainable Development Goals to make our students think big picture. Maybe they're talking to their students about how they're going to communicate across cultures. Maybe they're talking about the professional skills of how we're going to be doing those communications and what they should take away. When they talk about their COIL experience, how should they be talking about that when they say, this is why you should hire me because I'm a SUNY student and I have these great experiences. They're going to talk about how they talk project-based learning into their curriculum and have their students working with their international partners on something discrete and tangible, and that's how that is a wonderful experience. And these people that do COIL are just, my heroes in that they just do this so naturally and say like, oh yeah, that's just COIL. This is just what we do as educators. But I think that we have so much to learn from the way COIL is set up and how people like Hope create a scaffolded and supported way to do this, that I think if you just picked up one piece of what COIL is doing, where COIL does all these things often simultaneously, if you just picked up one piece of that, whether that's the focus on SDGs, the focus on intercultural communication, the focus on professional skills, the focus on project-based learning, that would be enough. That would be so much to walk away from this webinar with. But if you want to really deep dive and go swim with these amazing educators, I think that that's also possible because we have classes for you to dive into COIL and do the whole thing. But just that's how COIL fits into this larger, aspect of experiential learning. When we talk about experiential learning, we're talking about having the students do something authentic, guided by a faculty member, where they can reflect on it and talk about how they grow. And that's been our focus on all of these webinars. And in this one, I'm really excited for you to, really do a deep dive at how global learning fits into all this and into the definition of experiential learning.
Hooray! Thanks, Ed. All right, Mara.
Hey, hello, everyone. I am Mara Huber, and I'm joining you from the University at Buffalo, where I serve as Senior Director for Instructional Innovation and Transformation. And I am being joined by Hope Windle, who you'll hear from very shortly, to moderate, but also to participate in this discussion. And we're really excited to come together and to engage with all of you. I want to encourage you all to say hello in the chat if you are able, and to also share where you are Zooming from. I took a look at the registration, and we have folks from literally all over the world, and we're so excited that you're here. So please let us hear from you in the chat. I want to get us started by framing how we're going to talk about global learning, which is a topic that is near and dear to all of our hearts. But I think the moment in time that we find ourselves in, wherever we are, really behooves us to think through new lenses on what we mean and what we expect and what we promise, right? This is a real inflection point. And so when I think about global learning, and you'll hear from all of our panelists and moderators how they think about it, I think about impact. And I think about individual impact on the student and the learner, which is what brings us all here. But I think about impact on the world, both in terms of cultivating thinkers and innovators and leaders and humans that the world needs, but also the collective impact of experiential learning. And this is where my work comes in with project-based learning that I'll share, is that students can actually produce things, project outputs of value that can connect with needs and opportunities in the world. And through making those connections, we can do some pretty powerful things. So some questions that I share just to sort of guide this, and certainly questions that frame my own work. How can we prepare our students to live, learn, and lead in a world facing such urgent ecological and social challenges? We just can't ignore this, right? We can't ignore that this is so critical. And then how will our collective responsibility as higher education leaders and educators, how will we meet this moment, right? To produce students who are ready and equipped to contribute and thrive. I struggled with the word. Thrive is a strong word, right? Cope, many of us are coping, but we want our students to thrive and contribute. So I wanted to share that from the beginning. Hope if you can move to the next slide. So our first task is to make the case. We don't have to work hard at this because you're all here, so you all get it, and I know that. But I want to suggest my work is not technically COIL. We all have different ways of doing it, but the synergies are so strong that we constantly are looking at ways to work together. So it's really exciting that we're doing this. I want to suggest that project-based learning or problem-based learning are special. And I focus my work on project and problem-based learning. And I want to share a lens that I have been thinking about a lot lately, and that is framing projects around care. And that's a word we don't use very often in higher education. But care is actually really powerful. I'm a cognitive psychologist. And if we're looking at rooting curiosity in something that is durable and can really support the outputs of experiential learning, care is actually a really important source to tap into. Curiosity by itself is really great. But it can be somewhat fleeting and ephemeral. It can be performative at times. But if you root it in care, it actually can tap into a lot of exciting benefits from learning as well as the outputs. And if you go with this idea that curiosity rooted in care is powerful, empathy is actually a bridge between care and curiosity. And tapping into what we care about is something that can be quite powerful. Our own sense of care, but also our students and what they care about. So when I design my projects, which focus on sustainability and the Sustainable Development Goals, I cultivate spaces of care. not just my care, but the care of partners. So I partner with community-based leaders who are working on sustainability within really challenged ecosystems. Some of them are on this webinar, I believe. You can introduce yourselves. They're doing the work of restoration. They're doing the work of public health. So by sharing their stories and by sharing their realities and connecting students, you can actually create these wells of care that can fuel curiosity, which is really exciting. Hope if you can advance to the next slide. So I set up projects that connect students with partners who are doing the work of sustainability. And as I mentioned before, this has a dual purpose. So we can cultivate those skills and competencies that everybody is looking for in students, including employers, including innovation. You can give those students everything they need to succeed, but you can also address needs and challenges related to the world and the planet while building capacity for partners who are doing the work. So really exciting opportunities for value, the value chains of engagement. Hope, the next slide, please. So the idea is that everybody benefits. And the reason I'm sharing this with you at the beginning is to say we can heighten our expectations for experiential learning. We know it's important for students. We know employers want it. But we can think of experiential learning as a natural resource that can be cultivated and connected with the world in terms of project outputs and in terms of engagement. So students can develop those skills and competencies. Partners build capacity. I think you can keep going. Faculty, you're going to see amazing faculty who are doing this great work because they believe in it. But faculty are also connecting it with their own research, connecting it with their own pedagogical portfolios, right? We see faculty who are getting grants. We see faculty who are leveraging opportunities to share their work. So instructional impacts around engagement. We see connections to retention and enrollments. So institutions are benefiting, and together we can have this collective impact. Next slide, please. Okay, so if you're going to open up the space of what counts as projects, I say projects are literally everywhere. And the best projects come from what you care about. They come from problems. They come from needs. If you're going to open that up, imagine our universities opening it up to anything that students want to explore that connects with a need or opportunity in the world. How are we going to facilitate that? So the question then becomes one of design, and it becomes one of frameworks, right? It becomes a design challenge. So I'm going to give you a solution that we have developed at the University of Buffalo and that we've been using in working with groups in Africa locally to utilize this across SUNY. It's called Pearl. It's very simple. P is for prepare, engage and add value, reflect, and leverage. And this is a framework to support students as they are going through projects of any kind, working with partners, if you will, any type of project. And it also supports assessment. So I'm going to go really quickly because we've got to get to our presenters. So next slide, please. We at the University of Buffalo attach Pearl to digital badges. Many of you have heard of micro-credentials, very exciting, lots of innovation around those. Our badges at the University of Buffalo through the Experiential Learning Network. Christina Heath from the Experiential Learning Network is going to speak at the next week's webinar about assessment, and she'll talk about this model. But imagine students work with a partner. They're working to add value through some project deliverable. They upload their project deliverable in the form of some curated evidence, and they earn a digital badge that shows the world what they have skills and competencies around. So I'm just giving you sort of a little of this so you can start to see what's possible. All right, next slide. So we, at the Experiential Learning Network, so Christina's work, um, includes projects that connect students with global partners around issues of sustainability. Remember, the topic and title of this webinar is how do we connect this to the planet? How do we connect this to the world? So we can prioritize skills and competencies that directly map to innovation. Work that I'm doing in Nigeria, they're connecting their projects and their curriculum to issues and challenges like power and water, in areas of infrastructure that are so important to economic and sustainable development. And you can experiment with these in the types of projects you connect. Next slide, please. We do have a book, so I'll put that in the chat. And if anyone needs a free copy of the book, if they have trouble accessing it, you know, academic books are expensive, you can contact me. And there's specific guidance on how to translate the model that I just shared for different contexts and different structures. So it's highly translatable. Next slide, please. My colleague Michael Jabat from SUNY Fredonia was going to join us and share this work with you, but he unfortunately couldn't, so I will just do a few more slides before turning it over. Mike has taken this Pearl model and this model of connecting projects with global partners, and he's connected it around GIS mapping. And I wanted to share this, or I wanted him to share it, because it's so powerful to show how you can connect in with data science, with AI, with climate maps that are already available, right? So there are layers and layers of data available. But by connecting students with partners who are on the ground, we can have them share in situ data from where they are on how climate change is affecting them in real life, in the form of information through their cell phones, but also narrative data, images, videos, the realities of their life, all can be collected. And so you can flip through these slides just to show you. We have a partner in Uganda at Nakavali Refugee Settlement, who actually was working with Mike and his cell phone, going out into the field and sharing photos from where he was that would go to Mike, and to create these maps, which then students could develop mapping skills to enter information about what was there structurally, but then access the climate data to try to support our partner in thinking through agriculture projects. So by connecting local data, we think of local partners and all the benefits. You're going to hear of COIL and how they partner and collaborate. But the partner can actually provide data, and then together with students, we can do maps and we can access technology and do amazing things that benefit our partners and, again, the planet. That might be the end of my slides. If you click one more. Yeah, so hopefully you found some of that interesting. There's a lot that I threw at you, but I wanted to share that the how is actually something that we are figuring out how to do and innovating. And what that allows is for us to focus on the connections, on the collaboration, on the community building, and on the sharing. And the benefits of that, obviously, are so rich. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to my dear colleague, Hope, who's going to share some of the lenses that she brings to this work and introduce some of her coilers. So thank you.
Thanks, Mara. So Mara's really showed an incredible example and opportunity, especially if a professor is doing research and connecting the research into the wide world. And the possibility of that is amazing. I want to actually go to sort of thinking at your student level and the beginning of their journey as a student. And when we think about COIL and doing all the work that Mara was mentioning, we are activating a part of the brain of our students, which is joyful. And this opportunity for them to feel connected, this idea across cultures that they are part of a larger um, universe than just where the university is situated, just where their town is, but it's this whole planetary connection. And always we feel better when we're connected and a part of something bigger than ourselves. So, how do we get from this beginning jumping bean to what Mara has been talking about with the research? We want to think about our students and where they are right now. And our students are dealing with a lot of mental health issues. Since COVID, it's a very uncertain time for students. And so to be able to have actual hands-on experiences in the world where you are actually making a difference with other people and you're learning about yourself and other people is a huge opportunity for your students to sort of shift their thinking. And I was really excited by this research that recently realized how much we as professors can impact our students' well-being in the classroom, not as a co-curricular activity, but within the classroom, we can influence how our students can start to think about themselves. They they are having a team interaction, they're building their knowledge and their skills, and they're learning self-efficacy. They are building resilience because things don't go as planned, always. And we're teaching them that. We are supporting, coaching, and whether it's an internship or a COIL project that is immersed into the content of your course, you are providing this opportunity to create some better well-being for our student. And that even relates to Sustainable Development Goal number 3. So there's so many things, and I'm so excited about the professors who are going to share right now because they're going to talk about how much COIL impacts the students' sense of connection and commitment in interaction, and that it provides this safe space to learn how to do this work across cultures. It's not enough to be aware of another culture, to be able to order coffee in another language. But when you're talking about languages with and cultures that maybe are collectivist or individualist, how do you navigate that? And COIL is this opportunity to learn how to do that. So let's get there. We are in this revolution. We're actually at Education 5.0 now because AI is part of this. But honestly, we need our students to be able to problem solve, to collaborate, to be adaptive to whatever is thrown at them. We know that COIL provides this. It's a module within your course that professors develop and design, and then students participate in. There's always these parts of a collaboration. There's always trust building, discussion, some kind of project, and then reflection and wrapping it up. It doesn't take your whole semester. It's just a part of it. And when Mara is talking about, it can be with the professor's research. It can also be with an NGO or a community-based organization. It can focus on SDGs. So all these 3 approaches can be possible. It can also tap into the curiosity of somebody who might want to travel, but also who is traveling to meet and have a much deeper relationship with students where they're going on their travel trip. And honestly, this can happen as early as pre-college. And we also see it in first-year experiences. So we have many, many partners around the world, and we are making sure that students are having this opportunity, which changes their life every year in every program imaginable. So we asked these professors, how did you figure out what part of your course could be an experiential learning opportunity? And how did you pick your project? And what are the outcomes of doing experiential learning in an international realm for your students and for you? So with that, I'm turning it over to Dr. Shastri and Dr. Mohan. You're muted, Anu.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Hope. This is wonderful. We are really excited to share our work. I am Anuradha Shastri at SUNY Oneonta. I am a professor of educational psychology. And go ahead, Dr. Mohan. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Hope. Thank you, Dr. Mara. My name is Jatin Mohan. I'm a professor of musicology at IILM University in Gurugram, India.
Now, one of the ways in which both of us met as COIL partners, I would just like to say a word. We have been Fulbright scholars, and now we are Fulbright alumni. And coincidentally, Dr. Mohan is based in Haryana, India, and his Fulbright was here in New York. And I am based in New York, and my Fulbright was in Haryana. And we met, interestingly enough, at the Central New York Fulbright Association here in upstate New York. If we could move on to the next slide, please. Now, in terms of the first question that Hope has posed for us, for me, although I have been teaching different kinds of courses, I selected this particular one. It is an introductory course. It is a 1,000 level course, which attracts students from different majors. So as a part of the course, I have people who are majoring, I have students who are majoring in computer science, criminal justice, psychology, education. So there is a wonderful range, as well as they are from different years. So some of them are first years, some second, third, and even graduating seniors. Now, I consider this to be a very powerful aspect because it enriches classroom discussions. Over the years, one of the things that I have been noticing is that it is becoming increasingly difficult to establish a community of learners. And as Hope mentioned, the student isolation is one particular roadblock that we have to sort of address in the classroom. But and I felt COIL really rescued us in that sense. When I told the class that, somewhere in the middle of the semester, our class is going to expand and going to include students from India, there was so much of excitement that I wanted to sort of capture this momentum. Another way in which, and that is where me and Dr. Mohan started talking, building conversations of how we could work together. And it certainly is related to our strategic plan, the institutional strategic plan at SUNY Oneonta. Specifically, we have about 13 of them, and the seventh one says that graduates will be globally engaged and civic-minded. And here I would really like to thank, once we sort of came up with the idea, we enrolled in Hope's workshops, and both of us, we found that to be so helpful because by the time we had completed the workshops, and Hope conducts them masterfully, and by the time we completed those workshops, we were ready to implement the course. Please go ahead, Mohan.
Thank you, Professor Shastri. First thing first, the course which I selected for this particular COIL collaboration was was an interdisciplinary course. The course was entitled as Ethics and Social Responsibility, which included aspects of philosophy, about ethics, and about corporate management. So therefore, it was much easier for me to tweak different parts of it to adjust it to our COIL project and to meet Professor Shastri's demands. Secondly, the course I used was a VAC. VAC is a value-added course, which is offered to the students across the university. So the students I had were from different disciplines. There were law students, engineering students, computer science students, psychology students. So what it did, it made it sort of interzone, intercultural environment in my class. And what it did also, that we didn't have to design a project which would meet expectations of a particular discipline. In addition, when you're handling students of such diversity, you have to be careful about not micromanaging them because everybody thinks differently. A law student who has studied Rousseau and philosophy student who has studied Nietzsche will think about ideas and about interacting in different ways. So perhaps you have to let them go in their direction. You can only provide them a broad idea of how to interact with other people, but they can find their way in their own way differently. So what they did eventually, which later was mentioned to me, that they found that they were in a way were project managers, that they're handling such a complex intercultural, interdisciplinary project on their own. And the same thing that they mentioned, perhaps they'll be doing in their careers as well. Next, Hope. Next slide, Hope. Please, Professor Shastri.
Yeah. So in terms of how we went about designing the project, one of the things that we kept in mind is we wanted to strengthen their interaction skills, develop interactions with people in students they have never met in an international context. So the kind of framework that we selected, which helped us develop these competencies for career readiness, were our NACE competencies. And we were helping students in terms of developing developing their pairs, you know, the teammates on their own. And once we sort of helped them with the initial questions that they would ask, at first we found that they were totally lost. You know, what am I going to say? What am I going to speak? Those were some of the questions in their mind. And then we said, you know, all of you are college students. How about starting with asking, how is life at college where you are? And that gave them a tremendous sense of comfort that they were talking to people who were across time zones, across oceans, whom they had never met in a different culture, but they were talking about college life, you know. So that was a good point where we could establish a connection. So one framework that we used were the career competencies, and the other framework that Dr. Mohan is going to talk about were our United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Professor Shah. Thank you, Professor Shastri. Our project had three layers. First, about students interacting about their personal lives, asking questions about their social lives and how they go on in their lives at the university. And the second, about their academic lives, about the relationship that they have with their professors, with their peers, and how they, you know, go on to study, go on to their studies, what course they are studying. And once they're comfortable with such questions about, you know, they're comfortable about knowing about the person they're interacting with, the third layer, which was the most important, sorry, which was about the UN SDGs. And as I mentioned earlier, we were not interested in micromanaging our students. Rather, we wanted to become independent thinkers. So we gave them the list of 3 UN SDGs: quality education, gender equality, and mental health and well-being. And depending upon their choice, their life, how has been, they can select any of the SDG and exchange conversation. And what it did wonders. What we witnessed in their projects. Next, Hope, please. Hope.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, please.
Go ahead, Dr. Mohan.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Shastri. The outcome for the students and for me, and as for majority of the educators who will involve into this, will vary a lot. For me, the students came from rural Haryana, which is an upstate state in in North India. So what it does, the students are coming from a unique socio-political reality. Most of them haven't traveled abroad, and they haven't spoken to someone living outside of India. So for them, it was their first ever attempt. And second, many of them were interested in pursuing masters and PhDs in US and European universities. So they had their anxieties, how would they adjust to those societies. participating in a project like this sort of eased their worries. And second, for me as an educator, what I found out that Indian university is very much keen on to establishing international partnerships. So having this point on my CV that I have implemented a project such as this will help me a lot moving in my career from assistant to associate professor, then to professor, or to perhaps move to a different institution. And in addition, as previous speakers spoke about, it can also be very helpful in terms of pursuing research. In fact, me and Professor Shastri are thinking about converting our COIL project into a research paper. And I'll move the baton to Professor Shastri.
Thank you, Dr. Mohan. Initially, for me, I really wanted to take my entire class of students to India. And then I started thinking, practically, it is not going to be possible. Some of the students, for a number of reasons, either financial reasons or in terms of family responsibility. So I felt that the COIL pedagogy helped me to meet students where they are. So right from their dorm room, they would be able to interact and develop this kind of an international project. So that was the power of COIL. And I just wanted to make sure that I was leveraging it to the best of my ability to benefit each and every student in the classroom. I was really trying my best to address educational equity. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Mohan. I think one little piece he wanted to mention. If we could
Yes.
go back, yeah.
Oh, can you move to the next slide? Yeah. As I mentioned earlier, that many of the students were interested in pursuing masters and PhDs. Doing such a project really eased their worries, and they were much more comfortable going abroad and making friends and starting their academic and social life. In addition, they sort of got an idea of what sort of academic life they must expect abroad and how it is different and similar to their life already in India. So they become better global students. And third, as many of the students were going to pursue internships while pursuing their degrees, they were worried about handling similar projects, intercultural, interdisciplinary projects as they handled in COIL. They felt much more comfortable in their internship. That once we do in our internships, we'll be facing similar challenges, similar logistical and social challenges during our internship. So as in concluding statement, COIL made them better managerial skills, give them better managerial skills, improve their prospects as international students, and took them closer to the global citizenry. Thank you, Professor, to you, Professor Shastri.
Thank you both.
If we could move to the next slide, please.
Oh,
That
okay.
is the last of this is the last of our slides. And what we have done in this, I have actually extracted some excerpts of the reflection essays that students have written. And I'm just going to, as a researcher, I'm going to unpack the first one. And as we go along through this, you will notice how that sense of maturity that has developed in the process of collaboration. So overall, this student says, overall, this COIL project was an incredibly rich interpersonal experience. This experience was really 4 to 6 weeks. The project was just 4 to 6 weeks, and the actual interaction was not more than an hour, at the most hour and a half. But that is the power of COIL, that it is able to capture the student interest and student engagement. And then she says, it helped me cultivate the career competencies of communication, professionalism, and digital literacy. And this is at the heart of our NACE competencies. I also had to be professional and punctual in correspondence and show up for the interview ready to go. Overall, using Zoom and navigating different time zones was a helpful skill to practice. And finally, which is so important, this experience will help me a lot if I decide to work in an international context. If not, it was still incredibly valuable learning about university life in India and a little bit about their education system. And you see an echo of what Dr. Mohan was saying in his previous slide in some of these reflections, which I have included. That's about all for us. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you both very much. And with that, we're going to move into Jennifer and Jay from SUNY Brockport, which have been longtime COIL member campus, and we're thrilled that you're here today as well.
Thanks, Hope. It is great to be here. I am going to do a brief introduction to some of the collaborations we've had at Brockport, and then we'll move to Zhang, who will answer questions about a project she did. But I am a librarian, so I am not the teaching faculty or the course faculty, but I have had the privilege of working with COIL for at least 8 years now, and I have loved seeing the students and some of their projects and what they have learned when they have engaged with students from literally around the world. I initially got involved because Anne and Jay, they were wondering how to do country and culture research. So they came to me and we developed a library research guide where they can learn about different countries and cultures. I love the piece about global perspectives. It really has opened the eyes to our students. And in my role, I have partnered with faculty in different disciplines. So I've worked with journalism and broadcasting, with kinesiology courses. Right now, I'm working with a psychology class that is partnering with a class in Venezuela, and their whole topic is about sustainability. So that one is fascinating, and I'll be curious to see what the students think at the end of that one. And special education, which is where Jay will talk about in a minute. The cultural iceberg and some of those teaching concepts she's going to bring up. The country and culture LibGuide will be on the next slide. Some of the projects I have seen have involved kind of your traditional research papers, but more short papers that then inform how the project is done. So I've seen advertisement creation between two different cultures where you market a product to a different culture. AI in the world is something that Jay has worked on. And like I said, some of the sustainability with psychology. So next slide. This is just an example of the research guide I put together to support anyone doing country and culture information, but I've pointed this out or used it with some of the COIL faculty and, like I said, to a lot of different departments. So I'm more the one who works with everybody and helps support it. So with that, I'll move on to Dr. Zhang. There you go.
Thank you, Jennifer. So yeah, like Mara was saying, our librarians are amazing, and Jennifer helped us to build a solid foundation and provide such rich resources for our students. And hello again, everyone. I'm Dr. Jay Zhang, and I'm a professor of special education at SUNY Brockport. And I'm going to showcase a three-way COIL collaboration among SUNY Brockport, a university in France, as well as in Ukraine. So hope if you don't mind to move this forward. To answer the first question, why I'm doing the COIL, it's because it touches so many different pieces, and I'm teaching intro to special education as well as assessments for special education. So in both courses, we ask the students to have some experiences working with, and as well as knowledge and skills working with students with diverse background. And COIL provides such a rich hands-on opportunities for my students. And also it aligned with the Council for Exceptional Children Standards, which is our national organization's accreditation body. And it also aligned with so many key skills contributing to the workforce success. AAC and U have been identified, as well as the high impact practices AAC and U have been identified. And also we touch base on the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4, specifically quality education, and also make the education sustainable, especially for this specific case. the three-way COIL collaboration, we started in pandemic and we continued even with the Ukraine-Russian war. It didn't stop us from the continuation of collaboration. So hope if you, yeah, so my partner professors and I scaffolded the courses, in the COIL project into several steps. And the step one is the cultural iceberg module that Jennifer introduced just now about the LibGuide on culture and countries, which was reviewed by our students individually so that they can have some research background, and then they follow this iceberg concept of culture and identify some examples about what are surface culture examples from their partner students' experience, as well as the shallow level and the deep level of the cultures. And after this individual work, the students do the second step, which is composed of teamwork. So the students meet synchronously. Usually this will be our first synchronous meeting, and the students talk about each other's country and culture, and then checking about their own so that they can warm up and learn from each other. And then we go to the third step, which is an exercise that the students get together again. They prepare individually first, and then they get together again for a second synchronous meeting. And then they pick one of the topics, such as ethnic, linguistic, gender, religious, culture, diversity. So they can pick one of these topics and or discrimination and related policies, etc. And then they focus on the topic and do a teamwork, and then they make a team presentation. So hope if you don't mind to forward it. So the students will do the team presentation, and some of them choose to do the voice thread with the PowerPoint slides, and some of them choose to do the voiceover through PowerPoint, or some of them do the video recording. So, and then we compile everything into the Padlet, which all the students and the professors in this group can review, and they just learn again from each other. So with that, the benefits for the students, in addition to what my colleagues have already been saying, is the students learn about the knowledge and the skills related to the content, as well as building the intercultural competence. And also they have the first-hand experience talking about preparing themselves for teamwork, collaboration, communication in writing, and also spoken communication, as well as communication with different team members, especially with different cultural and linguistic backgrounds. And also they build the self-efficacy, the problem solving, and resilience throughout this project. And for the faculty member, faculty and the librarian, the benefits, I think we get the community, and we build a network, and we got to collaborate among each other and get some research done, get some publications, and more importantly, we are part of the professional development group that like for me, I don't feel lonely, because I know I can reach out to my colleagues here if I have any questions for support. So thank you.
Thank you. So, Dr. Huber, we are at the third part of our webinar today, and it's now an opportunity for people on the call with us to consider how you could do this, how you could support people doing this at your institution, how you could administer incentives for your professors to do this at your institution, how you can align, as Dr. Shastri showed, a initiative of your campus related to global to your particular course, right? Mara, do you want to jump in?
Yeah, I just wanted to share an example to get you thinking too about the engagement piece. Often faculty don't know where they could sort of insert this into their courses. And so I just want to give you a really basic example. I worked with a multi-section course, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of students, more than 8 professors teaching sections. And they had a course on writing. It was a technical writing course for engineering students. And they had an assignment where they had the students write up a proposal using some format, a proposal. And normally they would just do it based on a conceptual type of problem or an organization that they found. And what I did is engage them with a partner from another part of the world who had some challenges that they were trying to address through their work. And we gave them that example. And then we connected the class with the partner via Zoom. And the students got to ask the partner questions, and they had to prepare good, thoughtful questions. And then they did the same assignment, but rather than doing it based on some conceptual problem or opportunity, they focused it on a real community and a real leader. And just that little tweak led to transformative changes. Then they gave the proposals rather than just doing them and giving a grade. They actually shared the proposals with the partner. And the partner got to give feedback and pick the ones that were exciting. And then there were opportunities for students to go further. So thinking about where you can fit engagement and how you can adapt it, right? We need curricular versatility. We need models that take the essence of what we're talking about, but package it in ways that work. So just to sort of get your thinking going. But we want to hear from some of you. So Hope, how do you want to do this? You are the queen of facilitation. What would you suggest?
Well, so we can all thank you. I think Jennifer put the link in the chat
Right.
for the bit.ly, and we could all go to that together, but and also Brockport's throwing oh, they're offering a mini grant, a micro grant for that, which is really great. But let's open up the floor. This is really an opportunity for people who are here and are trying to figure out how you could do this. How could you, perhaps you already are working with local industry. How could you take that into a global realm? What are the biggest barriers that you're hitting at your school to do this? Oftentimes people tell us that their curriculum is very prescriptive and there's no way in. And I just want to suggest that there's always something that your students aren't grasping in terms of content and concepts, and perhaps there's something that would really help them understand something deeper if they actually did it, and as opposed to listen or read or write a report. What are the tools that you can give them so that they would better connect a concept to your overall course line of thinking? Any questions from the community?
Well, I would just take what you were just talking about, Hope, and ask our panelists that. How did you know that this course was right to make a little space in? How did you know that this course that you chose to do your project in was the right one to incorporate these extra competencies or this extra project?
I'm actually gonna just reach out to Jennifer O'Hara and to um, yeah, Jennifer O'Hara. So she has been doing this kind of work at Corning, and oh, she needs to meet with a student. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really
I
sorry
think
about that.
Anu
I'm
raised her
literally,
hand. Was Anu going to answer the question?
Well, great. Thank you for being here, and I understand you have to go be with a student. That's okay.
Anu had her hand up. I think she wanted to share
Great.
something.
Yeah, I just wanted to, in response to the question that Ed posed, as I mentioned in my presentation, this over the years, the building a community of learners was becoming more and more of a challenge. So I really wanted to address this issue of student isolation and how to, and if I tell them that we have to form a community of learners in the class, and I want you to talk with the person next to you, they will, but it doesn't take them too far. So but when I told them that we are going to expand this class to include, and most of the students over here, they haven't left New York, but they definitely think, they are excited about interacting with people from a different culture. So that helped, certainly, to have the NACE competencies as a framework was helpful. The other thing that I would like to add, and this is where I credit the students, is that there were definitely, interacting with India, the time zone is a major challenge. And at some point earlier on, when I was doing COIL with another partner in India, we wanted to have one simultaneous, a synchronous session, both the classes meeting at the same time. And that was so challenging, particularly students over here who have jobs and part-time jobs and things like that, and other social activities apart from school, given the time differences, it was very difficult. But when we told them, see, these are the teams that we have formed, and you decide for yourself which particular platform you want, whether it is Zoom, whether it is FaceTime, whether it is WhatsApp. And that is where the creativity showed up so clearly. And very easily, they were able to identify two windows of time, in the morning at 10 a.m. and at night at 11 p.m., which worked very well for them. And that is where Dr. Mohan and I were so impressed that when we left it to the teams, they were able to get the work done and figure out how best to get it done. That's all. Thank
Thank
you.
you very much.
We're at the very end, but Nina, Professor
Yeah,
Nina, you had a
yeah.
question?
Good evening, all.
Good evening.
From my end here is evening, so Nigeria is our our 8 p.m. So I'm so glad I participated in this webinar today. So my question on experiential learning, like I have a course I'm teaching postgraduate students, research studies, and I'm eager to see how I can implement this experiential learning to them. I want you to share with me an idea of how I could start. That is, after introducing what research is and steps to do research, how can I, go into the practical of them practicing experiential learning? That's my question.
I'll take that really quickly. So when you're introducing research is a perfect opportunity to do a coil because you can give your students a chance to practice in and work on a team. I'm just going to share my screen for a second and show an actual example of so in this case, this was one class in New York on Long Island, and they were learning how to do scientific research. And their partner was communication students in Venezuela. And so they came together, they got their student teams, and they looked at food insecurity, which is an issue on Long Island, as is all over the place, and how this impacts people. And they were able to connect it to chronic disease and also connect it to the SDGs. So there's a kernel of an idea for you for a potential project thinking about research.
And I know folks are leaving, but Nana, I'm working with a Nugu basic education system through the Smart Green Schools, and
Wow.
the teachers there are working with the students using local materials to solve problems. So they're addressing water filtration using soil and using sand. They're coming up with ways to address agricultural needs and experimenting with soil. So the beauty of experiential learning is that it's about the process of getting close to ideas and challenges and iterating and integrating and reflecting. And that doesn't require, it's enhanced by technology, but it's not necessary. So lots of examples of how to apply this within different contexts. But I would say Enugu Smart Green Schools is actually a global pioneer in bringing this to all the way from basic education all the way up. So kudos to your state.
Yeah, our governor is trying the smart school.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for sticking with us a few extra minutes. We will make this available, and this was a wonderful discussion. I want to thank Hope. I want to thank our panelists, and for all of you for making time to join us to discuss this important work. And I hope our paths will cross. So thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye.
And if everybody could undo their camera so you could say goodbye, and we'll say goodbye in our mother tongue. So just for a second, 1, 2, 3. Au revoir.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Here.
Bye. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you.